Hello and welcome to Empower IS. Today we will be discussing a very important topic related to paper related to GS paper third, and this is the part of internal security. आंतरिक सुरक्षा का ये पार्ट है जो जीएस के पार्ट 3 में आएगा. सो वी विल बी स्टार्टिंग दिस टॉपिक बिकॉज रिसेंटली इट वाज इन न्यूज. ओके, सो लेट्स स्टार्ट. Naxalism. First of all, we will learn what is their ideology. What is the ideology of Naxals, or what is Naxalism? Okay, so Maoism generated in China, and this is a form of communist theory derived from the teaching of Chinese political leader Mao Zedong. Okay, Naxals are working on the philosophy of or on the teaching of what Mao Zedong had taught. It was widely applied as a political and military guiding ideology in Communist Party of China. Initially, China got independent in 1949, and with the help of his teaching or his ideology, China got freedom. Okay. Now next point. What his teaching emphasized on advancement of people's social and economic life. Advancement of people's social and economic life, establishing a classless society through armed revolution. Okay. It was rooted in anti-imperialist struggle and supported armed revolution in order to achieve political transformation. And Naxals are those who are following this ideology and trying to implement the same in India as well. Okay, Naxalism is actually based on the principle of Maoism to achieve similar transformation in India. Okay, now you can see this 26 Naxal killed in Gadchiroli. Now where is Gadchiroli? In Maharashtra, or in Maharashtra near Nagpur. Okay, this was recently in news 3 or 4 days before. Okay, so what is Maoism? First of all, we will learn what is Maoism. Maoism is a form of communism developed by Mao Zedong or Mao Zedong. It is doctrine to capture state power through combination of armed insurgency, mass mobilization and strategic alliance. What is Maoism? Maoism is the doctrine to capture state power through combination of armed insurgency, mass mobilization and strategic alliances. Maoists also used propaganda, false propaganda and misinformation against the state institutions and other components of their insurgency doctrine. This process, the protected people's war. This process, the protected people's war, where emphasis on military line means protected. What do you mean by protected people's war? Protected means prolonged people's वार. मतलब ये ऐसी लड़ाई है जो लंबे समय तक चलेगी, और अनलेस एंड अनटिल दे गॉट कंट्रोल ऑफ द स्टेट थ्रू आर्म्ड rebellion. Okay. Now what was the background? Background was where Naxal or Naxalism originated. Background was The term Naxal derives its name from a village Naxarbari of district Darjeeling in West Bengal. West Bengal, there is the place in West Bengal, in Darjeeling district of West Bengal, and there is an important village, Naxalbari, from where this movement was started. Initially, it was a peasant uprising, where the movement was originated in May 1967 under the leadership of Charu Majumdar and Kanu Sanyal. These leaders were members of Communist Party of India, CPIM. Here M stand for Marxist. Here M stand for Marxist, okay, not Maoist. These leaders were members of CPIM Marxist. They refer to use of violence to destabilize the state through various communist guerrilla group. Now there was two initial event that was the cause of origin of Naxalism in India and in Naxalbari village particular. Okay, what was the first event? Now you know in Darjeeling is famous for tea plantation. Darjeeling was famous for tea plantation. Tea plantation, okay. Some workers are also working there, okay. Then the employer were not giving their wages. Employer were not giving their wages, and for that cause they revolted. They revolted. This was the very small petty uprising. Second most important was, but before that there was a person, in first event there was a person called Jungle Santhal. There was a person called Jungle Santhal. There was a person called Jungle Santhal. He was also influenced by the Communist Party of India, left-wing ideology. You can say simply Jungle Santhal was also member of the Communist Party of India, Marxist, as well as he was very inspired by left-wing ideology. He supported these peasants, and uprising got uprising converted into little bit some mass movement. And why uprising got the support of masses, or basically support of peasant? Because when in the fighting of employers as well as farmers who were working over there, police came there and they started taking harsh action against these peasants. So these peasants thought that state government or government is not doing anything for us, because police is state machinery and they are also against us. So you know that nothing is better than something. So they got support from Jungle Santhal, and the petty peasants uprising got converted to some extent into mass struggle. okay, mass struggle, and this person just killed that police personnel, okay. Now second uprising, the petty uprising was, there was a person, Vimal Pal. Now initially when India got independence, there was Land Ceiling Act. Land Ceiling Act was passed by the government of India as well as state governments, okay. Bimal Pal was also given land, okay, but landlords or zamindars were not ready to give his land. He went to court and court ordered to give him land, okay. But when he come back with that order, even though zamindars were not ready to give him land despite of court order, it means zamindars also defy the court order. It means the state machinery is not working properly, okay. So they club together, means these kind of peoples club together and form a mass movement, and they started killing the zamindars, and state machinery also became against these persons. So they had no options but to take help to the leader present over there, and leaders in the West Bengal were only from left wing, or they were very prone to or close to left wing ideology. Their thinkings also were of left. Now we will learn phases of development of Naxalism in India. Phases of development of Naxalism in India. How? First phase was from 1967 to 1971. 1967 to 1971. Second was 78 to 71 to 80, 80 to 90. We have divided these phases for sake of understanding. From 1990 to 2004 and 2004 to 2012, and from 2012 to 2021 or till date, okay. Now first phase. Naxalite movement began in May 1967 in the 3 police station area, Naxalbari, Kharibari and Fansideva of Darjeeling district in West Bengal. In November 1967, left-wing extremism from the whole country founded the All India Coordination Committee in Kolkata. Okay. In May 1968, the committee was renamed as All India Coordination Committee of Communist Revolutionary. All India Coordination Committee of Communist Revolutionary. It declared 4 ideological aims. It declares 4 ideological aims. Protected People's War. First was Protected People's War in accordance with the Mao's teaching. माओ के टीचिंग के अनुसार उन्होंने 4 एम प्रिपेयर किया. Adapting to the guerrilla warfare and establishment of rural revolutionary base in rural area and encircling the cities as well as abstaining from the parliamentary election. Means they were just started defying the state institutions. Okay. All India Coordination Committee of Communist Revolutionary founded the Revolutionary Party CPIM, Marxist and Leninist. Basically, how this party came into being? CPI Marxist ML, CPI ML. Initially, the party's name was CPI M, Marxist. Or during this period, Communist Party of India Marxist was in coalition government in West Bengal, and some members were radical in their ideology and some members were not so radical. The members who were more radical, basically this party was in coalition with another party in West Bengal, okay, but these members, this party was basically following the ideology of Mao. Some members were more radical and some members were less radical. Charun Majumdar and Kanu Sanyal were also members of this party, but they were more radical. Okay. Before formation of government, they were in favor of classless society. They were in favor of creating classless society, where justice, equality and equal distribution of resources will prevail. Okay, but when they came to power or they form government or coalition government, they forget this ideology and they try to suppress this uprising or this movement. Okay, so some members become against and this party was split, or you can say these members were expelled out from this party and members were Kanu Sanyal, Majumdar. Okay, then they form All India Coordination Committee in Kolkata, and after some time the committee was renamed as All India Coordination Committee for Communist Revolutionary, and this committee formed a new party. This committee formed a new party called CPI, Communist Party of India, Marxist and Leninist. Okay, this party was formed basically these leaders. Okay, in 1969, that was based on Mao's ideology. So Naxalite movement is spread in many parts of the country, especially in West Bengal, Odisha, Bihar and Andhra Pradesh after some time. Okay, their main followers were peasants, Adivasis, tribals, who often experienced discrimination and exploitation from the state authority. Also, several young unemployed people and students got attracted to the Naxal's ideology. Okay. Now, the period of 1970-71 was peak period of violent activity by the Naxals. Okay. A joint operation of the police and army in 1971 in the worst affected areas in West Bengal, Bihar and Odisha led to the arrest and death of almost all the top leaders of this movement. Charu Majumdar was caught and died in 1972 in police custody. He was died due to severe torture in the police custody. Okay, and Kanu Sanyal was also arrested, and later he changed the path of Naxalism. He distanced himself from these organizations, and recently he was died in 2010. Okay. Now the movement faced severe blow during the emergency when around 40,000 cadres, cadre means members, were imprisoned in 1975. Basically in 1971, there was a war going on in West Bengal or East Pakistan. There in West Bengal, police was working and also army was deployed. Army was also deployed. Okay, and their violence was so fatal that central government at that time, PM was Indira Gandhi, and during time of emergency, president rule was there, and whole control was under central government. Okay, so with the help of police and army, this movement was suppressed. Okay, and there was a very important operation, steeple chase. Name of that operation was steeple chase. So this might be asked in objective, you mean say preliminary examination. So remember this operation, steeple operation. And this was fatal for the survival of this movement. So this movement was suppressed, and then start next phase second. The movement arose again more violent after the emergency. When emergency ceased to operate, then these movements was also arising, got some powers, some support, and this movement was also arise after emergency ceased to operate. It continued to widen its base as per the strategy of protected war. Okay, the base grew from West Bengal to Bihar, Odisha, and also up to Andhra Pradesh. CPI-ML was converted into People's War Group in 1980. Basically in 1980 there was a person. Basically in 1980 there was a person, Kondapalli Sitaramaiah. Kondapalli Sitaramaiah. Kondapalli Sitaramaiah was also member of CPI-ML. He was also member of CPI-ML, but due to some differences in this party, he quit this party and went to south and formed People's War Group. People's War Group in Andhra Pradesh, in Karimnagar district of Andhra Pradesh. Okay, in Karimnagar district of Andhra Pradesh. Then you can say that this movement was shifted from east to central India. This movement was shifted from east to central India. Okay, and they were basically from the tri-junction of Chhattisgarh, Andhra Pradesh, Odisha, and some part of Maharashtra. Now again third phase was arising. Okay, then formation of People's War Group was in 1980, which had its base in Andhra Pradesh and struck heavy casualty among the police personnel. PWG was banned by Andhra Pradesh in 1992, but it continued to function. Simultaneously, Maoist Communist Center of India grew in strength in northern Bihar, and carried out large-scale attack on landlords and other upper caste groups. Initially, in 1980, there was caste caste conflict in Bihar going on. Okay, caste conflict was between upper caste and versus lower caste. Upper caste versus lower caste. Upper caste were fighting in the name of Ranveer Sena. And there was no such kind of senas for the lower caste. So left wing ideology, the members from Communist Party of India or left wing ideology started supporting these lower caste people, and from CPI, Maoist, and as well as Maoist Communist Center of India, which was working in Nepal also. So they organized together and formed Maoist Communist Center of India. Okay, this organization were also working in Nepal, South Nepal. Okay, now in third phase, in a significant development in 2004, what happened in 2004? In 2004, People's War Group and Communist Maoist Center MCC merged together and formed CPI Maoist. They formed this new organization called CPI Maoist. Okay. Almost 13 left-wing extremist groups are also currently simultaneously in the country. The CPI Maoist was major left-wing extremist outfit responsible for the most of the incident or violence and killing of civilian and security forces in India at that time, including scheduled terrorist organization along with all its formation. Okay, and this was also banned by the Unlawful Activity Prevention Act 1967. After formation of this CPI Maoist, Naxal violence has been on a rise since 2005, and to the extent such that Prime Minister of India said that Naxalism is the single biggest internal security of India. Okay, Naxalite influence roughly covers 1/3 of geographical area of India. It is estimated that almost 40,000 strong Naxalite has become stand for the country's security forces and barriers to development in the vast mineral rich region of eastern India known as Red Corridor. Now in 2007, the most affected area, this region was called a Red Corridor. This patti or region was called a Red Corridor. This was the areas where Naxals were very active, and in 2007. Now if you go and see in 2013, these areas were shrinking. Now in 2007, so much areas were under the direct influence of Naxalism, and in 2013 this kind of area, this much of area were under direct influence. But in 2018 only this much area is still under direct influence of Naxalism, and this red region is where the core or this area is highly influenced under the Naxals. So they are also trying to spread their ideology in Bhil and Gond tribe dominated area, and this is called Golden Corridor, stretching from Pune to Ahmedabad and some adjoining areas of Rajasthan. They are trying to exploit the new areas, various social groups, marginalized sections like Dalit, minority through active association with their grievances against the state. Okay. Maoists have also made their presence in the western Odisha and upper Assam and Arunachal Pradesh also, but not to the extent which they were present in these areas of Red Corridor. But the worst affected areas of Maoist influence were approximately 30 districts of 7 states like Chhattisgarh, Odisha, Maharashtra, Andhra Pradesh, Jharkhand, Bihar and West Bengal. In 2000, there were more than 200 districts that were affected by the Naxalism, but in 2018 the affected districts were gone down from 126 to 90 as per report of Ministry of Home Affairs. Most of these areas fall in Dandkaran region, which include Chhattisgarh, Odisha, Maharashtra and Andhra Pradesh. Local panchayat leaders are often forced to resign there, and Maoists hold regular adalat in that region of Dandkaran. They have been running their parallel government as well as parallel judiciary in this region. The biggest incident that was there in 2010 in Dantewala of Chhattisgarh district of Chhattisgarh state and killed almost 76 CRPF armed personnel, showing the extent of their planning, skill and armament. In 2013 again, left-wing extremist movement made international appearance, and because they killed 27 people including some high level politicians, and in 2013 itself they killed a politician Mahendra Karma in Sukma district of Chhattisgarh. Now Mahendra Karma was very popular behind the Salwa Judum because he was the mastermind against the origin of Salwa Judum, which we will be discussing later on. Almost 40 to 50% of the total cadres or total members of this organization is female. Now, what is the aims and objective of this organization? Their main aim is to destroy the legitimacy of the state and to create mass base with a certain degree of acceptability. Ultimate objective is to attain political power by violent means and establish what they envisage as the India's People's Democratic Federal Republic. वो इस टाइप के इंस्टीट्यूशन क्रिएट करना चाहते हैं इंस्टेड ऑफ स्टेट गवर्नमेंट. They are predominantly attack on police and their establishment. They also attack on certain type of infrastructure, rail, road and power transmission. Also forcibly oppose execution of development work and critical road construction which are going in that area. Because if they do not hamper the development, then there will be no anything left for them to convince the people that our ideology, what we are finding out or for what we are finding or fighting. Naxal activity also manifested itself through various civil societies and front organization, and such as special economic zone policy, land reform, and land acquisition policy, displacement, etc., with the objective of expanding their mass base. Okay. While impending development work and challenging the state authority, the Naxalites simultaneously try to derive benefit from the overall underdevelopment and subnormal functioning of the field institutions like police station, tahsil, development block, schools, primary health center, Anganwadi centers, which administer and provide a services at the ground level. They are always against the development in this region. Now, what is their strategy? First strategy is to use frontal organization. Now, what is a frontal organization? These are Revolutionary Democratic Front, People's Democratic Front of India, Democratic Student Union, and student group from left-wing institutions like Jawaharlal Nehru. They generate people's sympathy through persistent pursuance of propaganda on issue of human rights violation and security forces. Maoists also take help from left-leaning civil society group, human rights group, national and international media, and other student group for mass mobilization. They exploit the sluggish judicial system to get away from legal conviction and punishment. They also use guerrilla warfare. Tactics. What is guerrilla warfare? It is a form of warfare in which a small group of combatants, such as armed or civilians, irregular, use military tactics including ambush, sabotage, raid, petty warfare, hit and run tactics, and tactics extraordinary mobility to the fight a larger and less mobility of traditional army. They also use powerful propaganda machinery. They used to spread false propaganda and misinformation to the masses. Naxalites have very powerful propaganda machinery which is active in major towns as well as national capitals. They even have their supporters in the media. These NGOs and activists wage non-stop propaganda war against the government to stop that and aim to check the Naxalite movement of India. मतलब उस इस एक्टिविटी को गलत बताते हैं जो गवर्नमेंट जो है डेवलपमेंटल वर्क के लिए यूज करती है. नाउ फोर्थ, tactical counter-offensive campaign. Tactical counter-offensive. What is this? This is a situation, suppose they agree if government take steps to suppress their movement, they made agreement with the government that after some time we will quit this movement or we will we do not create nuisance or violence in the such areas. But in spite of that, they take advantage of that period. They take advantage of that period and re-empower themselves, and sometime in between they attack security forces or their establishment. This is a kind of tactics they use. Nowadays they are using a fresh strategy. First strategy is to expand outside the forest into urban area. Nowadays they are trying to expand their area outside the forest. Initially they were in the deep remote areas of forest, but now they are expanding their areas of control from forest to urban area to win over non-peasant classes and other social group, seize leadership of ongoing local struggles, intensify the mine warfare, militarize the Jan militia. Now, what is the Jan militia? Jan militia is the group of people forces dispersal of the police resources, launching attacks outside their stronghold. अब क्या होता है कि these persons, suppose this is their stronghold and this is a police station. They come out of their stronghold and attack here and then again come back in their areas. This kind of tactics and attack they are following nowadays. Now, it has been seen that these Naxalites are coordinating or getting support from other terrorist organizations which are working in India as well out of India, like People's Liberation Army of Manipur and National Socialist Council of NSCN of Nagaland are sourcing arms to fight their movement. Most of these outfits have linkages with the external forces inimical to India. They are frequently express solidarity with Jammu and Kashmir terrorist group. These ties are part of their strategic united front against India. Now, sources of funding. What is their sources of funding? The main source of funding of left-wing extremist movement is extortion. They are funding themselves through extortion from government project as well as from corporate companies working in their areas of influence. Most of the time it is in the form of protection money. Protection किससे? From themselves. खुद से ही protection के लिए पैसे लेते हैं. Sometimes they also resort to kidnapping and killing also to terrorize the person or people, rich person, so that they get financial help from these peoples. Okay, these peoples make their stronghold in the area where coal, iron, bauxite and other types of valuable resources are found in abundance. Like Odisha and Jharkhand are also account for almost half of the country's coal reserve. Coal is by far India's greatest energy resources, therefore it provides them enough score for extortion. It is ironical that after 7 decades of independence, many remote areas which are otherwise rich in mineral resources are yet to see a sign of development, because these areas are rich in all natural resources but there is no sign of development. This kind of situation become very feasible for them and to brainwash the mind of common people or poor people or tribes and person belong to scheduled caste and scheduled tribe. This kind of situation, they exploit this kind of situation. This situation is combined with many other socio-economic problems that has contributed to the rise of Naxalism. These factors can be broadly categorized as: first, jungle, jameen, jal, jungle and jameen. Now, first point will be evasion of land ceiling laws. In that area, when land ceiling act was passed, this law was not properly implemented and people didn't get the land that was rendered for them. So people were unhappy. Whose land was there? Encroachment and occupation of government and community land, non-regularization of traditional land right. or the forest dwelling people were also didn't get their traditional right on the forest produce. This create a different mindset against the government. Land acquisition without proper compensation and rehabilitation were also responsible for the rise of Naxalism in India. Disruption of age-old tribal forest relationship. Now, developmental deficit. In this area, there was not parallel development as where in other parts of the country. So, unemployment, rampant unemployment was there, poverty was there, infrastructure deficit, lack of education, lack of poor health care centers. These institutions were not present in that area. Now, social exclusion and alienation, violation of human rights. In these areas, there was a large violation of human rights, abuse and dignity of life, disconnect with the mainstream society, and discontent against the government policies and government institutions. Now, there was also governance deficit from the government side, lack of routine administration, incompetent and ill-trained, poorly motivated public personnel, mismanagement and corruption in government schemes, poor implementation of special laws like PESA, Panchayat Extension to Scheduled Area, PESA Act 1996. This law was not properly implemented, that's why people living in that area didn't get their requisite right. Perversion of electoral politics and unsatisfactory working of the local government or local self institutions. Now, what government has done till now? Fight against Naxalism. What kind of activity or what kind of steps government has taken to curtail or contain the Naxalism in India? Under India's constitution, issue of law and order have traditionally been responsibility of the state rather than central government. But till 2006, affected states were mainly taking the real challenges. Till 2006, states were taking these challenges or fighting with Naxalism. Central government were not paying heed to their problem or not giving or providing so much support that is required to suppress such kind of movement. But Andhra Pradesh has even succeeded in curbing the Naxalism at large. In 2006, after Prime Minister declared that Naxalism is the single largest internal security challenges for India, then many steps were taken. This includes the creation of separate division in the Home Ministry, Naxal Management Division, and appointment of an expert committee headed by Dr. Bandyopadhyay by the Planning Commission in 2006. This committee was tasked and it gave its report. It underscored that social, political, economic and cultural discrimination faced by the scheduled caste and scheduled tribe across the country. This was the major reason. Now, committee also established that the lack of empowerment of local communities as the main reason of spread of Naxalism. It further stated that the bureaucracy had failed miserably in delivering good governance in Naxal affected area. It also recommended a tribal friendly land acquisition and rehabilitation policy, because these were things that were lacking earlier. In 2009, the worst affected state launched a large scale offensive against that involved deployment of heavy troops in worst affected area. Okay. Now changes of strategy by the Home Ministry. Now Home Ministry ने क्या किया? The government had realized that the issue of good governance, development and regular functioning of the critical field institutions and public awareness are also important in dealing with the left wing extremism. Okay. After 2006, they resorted to heavy coercive method to curtail or control the Naxalism, spread of Naxalism. But they changed their strategy and they realized that the issue of governance, development, regular functioning of the field institutions like public awareness are also important while dealing with these organizations. Therefore, it approached accordingly changed to deal with the Naxal activity, and they focus on the development. Some important schemes started by the government. First, security related expenditure scheme. What is this? Funds are provided for meeting recurring expenditure relating to insurance, training and operational need of the security forces. Okay. Now second point, rehabilitation of left wing extremist cadre who surrender, community policing, security related infrastructure for village defense committee and publicity material. These were the things where expenditure have to meet by the central government or state government. Special infrastructure schemes. What is this? This scheme is for special infrastructure in the affected states and approved in 11th plan, and allocation of 500 crore to cater to the critical infrastructure need in this area. Now this scheme has been expanded to provide fund for upgradation of infrastructure, weaponry, equipment, training of special forces. Central scheme also started in 2009 to assist the civilian victims or family victims of terrorist attacks, communal or Naxal violence. This scheme was started in 2009. The main objective of this scheme was to help the family or victim of Naxal violence, and the amount was given 3 lakh to the affected family. This scheme was only to help or to support the family member who are or which are affected by the Naxalism. Now integrated action plan. Next step that government has taken was integrated action plan. A plan for 88 selected tribal and backward districts in the country for accelerated development. The major aim of this initiative was to provide public infrastructure and services. Executive model of spending of 30 crore per district through district level committee, and in that committee there was 3 members: district magistrate, superintendent of police and district forest officer. These members were to decide where and how to spend this much money for the well-being of the persons or areas. Now major work of project taken under this was construction work. construction of school building, school furniture, Anganwadi center, drinking water facilities, rural road, panchayat bhavan or community hall, godowns, PDS shops, livelihood activity or skill development or training program. These 30 crore rupees was to spend in this kind of work. Now again the government decided to fortify the police stations in that area. The ministry has sanctioned 400 police stations in 9 affected states at the cost of 2 crore per police station. Means this is the police station and there will be fortification of these police stations so that Naxal cannot harm this station or blows this station. Okay. Now civic action plans are also started by the government in that area. Under this scheme, financial assistance or financial grant are sanctioned to undertake development in affected area. This is successful scheme which aimed at build bridges between the local population and security forces. It has now adopted an individual oriented approach rather than a project oriented. Suppose there was some problem in any family or any individual, then through this program the assistance is provided to this family under this program. Under this project, the winning of heart and mind was initiated. Actually, the Naxals have created misinformation or false propaganda among the minds of the local population, local tribal population, or who are living in remote forest area, and they have made them understand that the government is not doing anything for them. Who are doing? We are doing for them, but the government is not doing anything for them. Then why we will support the government? So government is also trying to start counter propaganda, and through this scheme government machineries or government is trying to appease the people and trying to win their heart, trying to convince them that government is doing or trying to do or want to do, but they are not allowing us to do developmental work in their area. Now Roshni, again there was a Roshni scheme in the started by Ministry of Rural Development. It is a placement linked skill development program started by Ministry of Rural Development in affected areas where rural men and women, mostly tribal population in 24 worst affected district. What is this emphasis on a special effort to proactively cover particularly vulnerable tribal group on a priority basis. This program is basically a skill development program, in that affected area, and where men and women will be on given training, and also along with training they will also get the opportunity for placement for job. Now what is the administrative hurdle? Why government is not able to curtail the menace of extremism, or why government is not able to convince the people or make people in its own favor? There was some hurdles, and what is these hurdles? Poor infrastructure in that area, lack of communication and shortage of trained manpower. Government do not have required infrastructure and required communication systems or trained manpower. Now second point is absence of routine administration in this area, which allow Maoists to run camp. Because of absence of government machinery in that area, Maoists are free to run, collect taxes, extort money from all industries and infrastructure company working in that area. Thus, Maoists conduct a virtual parallel government. The Dandkaranya region extended different state. It gives a Maoist a distinct advantage because there is no government machinery working there. So they got free hand and they were administrating that area. They were collecting taxes and doing some developmental work, but not with the pace of government doing. Now, interstate boundaries are fissures. Interstate boundaries are fissures which are being exploited by the Maoists. Poor coordination among the various state police forces. Suppose I am doing crime in Uttar Pradesh and when search operation is being started for me, then I go to Madhya Pradesh. So the UP police cannot arrest me unless and until Madhya Pradesh government allows. So this is the problem, administrative problem. The interstate train junctions are also worst affected. The lack of professionalism and proper understanding between the center forces and state police. Now center forces and state police or center forces are working against the Naxalism and state forces also there for their assistance, but there is no coordination among them, or there is no such kind of coordination among them that is required to curtail or contain the Naxalism in that particular area. Differences in policies of state governments are also responsible regarding surrenders, talks and policing strategy, and also exploited by the Maoists. Different governments have their different policies, different surrender policies. They are having talks with the Naxals with their different matter of concern. Now next point, beside this, since many rebels are recruited from among the tribals, they are built-in advantage because tribal peoples know each and everything about the area. They know their geography very well. Even though the government forces outnumber the rebel and have greater resources at their disposal, but they frequently fall prey to devastating attack in the remote area. Why this is so? Because government machineries are not well trained, or they don't have knowledge about their geography of that area. But the local people, what Naxalite do, they just recruit from local persons, and local person know each and everything about that area. So they are far advantage than the police forces or police machinery or government machinery. Now what is way forward? What is way forward? The phenomenon of Naxalism is directly related to underdevelopment. We can understand that the phenomenon of Naxalism is directly related to underdevelopment. Why Naxalism is not there in Uttar Pradesh? Why Naxalism is not there in Western Maharashtra? Why Naxalism is not there in Gujarat? Because these areas are well developed, but Naxalism problem is only in that area where there is no development. So this is directly related to underdevelopment, exploitation, artificially depressed wages, inadequate employment opportunity, and lack of access to the resources, underdeveloped agriculture, geographical isolations, lack of land reform. all contribute significantly to the growth of Naxalism in India. Now, Naxalism succeeds where people are relatively poor. They face oppression from the various segments of the society and government, and the government is indifferent to their plight and little prospect or hope that the things will get better. So, to eliminate Naxalism, it is not enough to eliminate their leader. What is required? What is required? All round development of that area. Just provide basic infrastructure that is available in urban areas or other developed state of the country. Now, truly to eliminate Naxalism, we must undercut their reason for existence. Why Naxalism is present there? What is the reason? Reason is underdevelopment, all round underdevelopment. So, if we develop that area, then this problem will be automatically finished. Therefore, the government must fulfill their goals, the goals for them. If they have nothing to fight, then they will not fight. Why Naxals try to overthrow the government and establish their own government for development of that area? If our government will work for people living there or in that area, then why do they will fight? They will not fight, and problem of Naxalism will not be there. If all these works or all that goals is fulfilled by the government which they are aspiring for. So, what is way forward? First point is development strategy. The following steps should be taken to wean away the masses from the influence of Naxalism. First point is special focus on political security and accelerated socio-economic development in a holistic manner. Now, second point is better infrastructure like road, electricity and communication in core Naxal area. Now, third point, political parties must strengthen their cadre base in Naxal affected area, so that the youth can be weaned away from the path of Naxal ideology. Now, affirmative action by the state. Fifth point, decentralization and participative democracy. Government must ensure decentralization of power and participative democracy in that area. Now, next point, coordination among the different departments of the state to ensure holistic development or all-rounder development. Now, coordination between the police and different state department, coordination and implementation of various developmental schemes, flagship programs of the Government of India, and distribution of titles under the scheduled tribes and scheduled and other traditional forest dweller, recognition of Forest Right Act 2006, or simply you can say Forest Right Act, Forest Right Act, Forest Right Act 2006. Implementation of, fully implementation, honestly implementing the Forest Right Act in that area, so that the tribals or people living in that remote forest area will come in favor of the government and forgive the path of violence. Now, second point is strategy, security strategy. Those who are hardcore ideology, those who are following hardcore ideology and whose only purpose to overthrow the state government have to deal with stern action by the police, that is bullet for bullet. And we have to win away the peace-loving common people from the hardcore Naxalite, as these people don't want to development. They use underdevelopment and governance deficit as the means to achieve their selfish goal and brainwash the common people living there. Operation Greyhound of Andhra Pradesh has shown professional way of handling the Naxal problem. Now, first point, security strategy, professional dominance by security forces. First point is professional dominance by security forces. Primacy of state police at all level, augment state police strength, upgradation and capacity building of the local state police. Third point is increasing number of security forces in stronghold of the Naxals. Local police infrastructure should be developed with the more thanas, chowkis and post and battalion in that affected areas. Thanas and chowkis should be strategically located and well functional. Now, fifth point, modernization of weapons and technical equipment, improvement of communication system and electronic surveillance system in that area, special training to the police personnel. These were point which is strategically important as far as security is concerned. Now, next point, formation of specially trained special task force, formation of special trained task force at the pattern of Greyhound which is working in Andhra Pradesh. Now, special emphasis should be on strengthening of local intelligence unit in that affected area, promotion of local resistance group on the line of village defense committee which is working in the JNK. Now, inter-state police coordination. There must be inter-state police coordination, especially in Dankarani region, and better command control coordination between the state and central government. Tightening of the control on the availability of explosive. Where do they get explosive? They are working in India and they are getting such kind of explosive in India itself. Then what are the government machineries is doing? They must have some control on the availability of explosive. Posting of competent and motivated police officers in left wing extremist affected area and subsequent incentive should be provided to them. अब क्या होता है कि कोई पुलिस ऑफिसर उस एरिया में पोस्टिंग होती है तो उसको डर होता है कि कहीं हम मारे न जाए, ठीक है। नाउ साइकोलॉजिकल ऑपरेशन क्या है? टू चेंज द परसेप्शन about the government, mindset about the government and government developmental program in the mind of common people living there. Okay, so following measures should be implemented. First, effective and persistent psychological operation must be launched to delegitimize movement. So, next point, media and public perception management, and third point, administration to engage the public at large, civil society, NGOs to restore the people's faith and confidence in the government machinery. Now, other measures that should be taken. First point, cutting the financial support of the Naxal movement. First and foremost point and foremost work that should be done is cutting the financial support that Naxals are getting. Second point, the doors for peace of talk should always be open. Third, there should be a genuine attempt to win the heart and mind of the people living there. Time-bounded conviction of arrested cadre must be ensured through the vital reform in criminal justice system. Here, we must also reform criminal justice system. Effective surrender policy, surrender and rehabilitation policy, ensuring proper safety and care of their families now, better adherence to the laws legislated for the protection and development of tribals. Now schedule 5 and 6, which talks about schedule tribes areas should be properly implemented. Means schedule 5 and 6 should be properly implemented in that area. Now, what kind of question that be asked from this topic? Left-wing extremism is a serious challenge for the internal security of the country. Left-wing extremism or Maoism is a serious challenge for the internal security of the country. Identify the region responsible for this problem and discuss the government strategy to be adopted to counter this problem. This is the first question. And second question that might be asked in paper 3 of GS paper 3, looking at the broad nature of the problem of left-wing extremism, it has become clear that it is not just the law and order problem. So, what do you think can be the holistic strategy to tackle this menace or problem? There are two questions, and if you are watching this video and trying to answer this, just write answer and send it to the number which is there in the description. Okay, so I hope you have enjoyed, and I have tried to make you understand a holistic concept related to Naxalism in India. So that's all for today. Thank you so much.